Superman 2025. Let's talk about this movie. Going into this movie, I expected a good movie because James Gunn has a track record of making good superhero movies. So I did think this was going to be good. Did I think it was going to be amazing? No. I didn't. Superman, played by David Cornsweet, he is Superman. He did a very good job. He is a very convincing Superman. His personality in this movie of this Superman is very interesting. Interesting in terms of he's goofy, he's wacky, he likes jokes, and I think it does work. Does he make too many jokes? Does it seem a little bit cringe and corny? Not to me. And moving to him, Clark Kent and Lois Lane, their dynamic is very interesting here because it's a situationship. They're still sorting through things. It's still very early for them. And that was a very cool take on their relationship. And going into Rachel, I can't pronounce her last name, but the person who played Lois Lane, that actor did a great job. I thought Lois Lane was very good in this movie. She was very involved, as you would expect. Let's talk about the comedy aspect because there is a lot of comedy. There is a lot of jokes, a lot of goofy moments. And listen, there is a lot of moments where I am literally laughing out loud in the cinema because the jokes are good. But also there are a lot of jokes where I'm just like, that was not needed. Like it did feel like pretty much almost every scene there had to be some kind of joke, some kind of humor inserted into almost every scene, which I just don't think it's necessary. I don't know. I just don't think it's that necessary. I think you can have a lot of jokes, but when it feels like it's almost in every scene, it gets annoying at times. Even though I do think in this movie, as much as there are a lot of jokes and there is a lot of jokes that don't work for me, there are also a lot of jokes that do work. Just like it was good. It was good overall, but I do worry if I rewatch this movie multiple times, I might get sick of the jokes because there is a lot. This is what I did expect though. I knew James Gunn was going to lean heavy on the jokes, especially on the last few teasers and clips and trailers. It was quite obvious that this was going to be a very comedy-filled movie. Let's go into the story, because the story is very fast-paced. Like, you are thrown into this world. You're not given much context and much exposition. They do give you a little Star Wars kind of background information in the opening scene. Superman has lost his first battle, so you do get some exposition, but it's not a whole lot, which I didn't mind. Throw me into the world, let's see what's happening. I personally really liked that. It felt like there was not really any moment of like you could breathe. Like it felt like things were really happening every minute. Something is happening. But I will also acknowledge that because it's so fast paced, there isn't a consistency on what the movie is trying to do, in my opinion. There is a lot of different themes and that are being tackled here, and because the movie is so fast paced, there's never much depth going into those themes. For example, when Clark is being questioned by Lois Lane about him interfering with other countries and their affairs, that gets talked about a little bit, but not enough. Like it gets talked about like in one scene, the interview scene, and then it just gets left behind. You would like to have more information on that, but they don't give us more. Or even like Clark losing his first battle, maybe give us more about that, because Superman usually does not lose, so maybe that should be a little bit more of a big deal. Themes of like Clark figuring out what his purpose is now because of his parents' message being what he did not expect, that could be a very big theme, but it doesn't really get explored in detail because things are just moving so fast that he does talk about it a little bit, but not in detail. So I do understand that, yes, the fast-paced nature of this movie does take away from the depth of some of these themes. This felt like a Superman and Friends type of movie. It's because there's so many different characters with the Justice Gang, unofficial name, and you have the Daily Planet doing their own thing, and then you have Superman. It felt like a lot of moving parts. It didn't feel like solely a Superman movie, if you understand what I'm saying. And going into the Justice Gang, they were very interesting. I think their trio and dynamic is very interesting. The movie left me feeling like if they made a movie with those three, I would be very invested to see how that would go. Mr. Terrific, he was very involved, like with Lois Lane, and that was cool to see, and he is a good character. Like I think he is definitely like one of the performances that I did not expect to like so much. He's a very interesting character. I think Lex Luthor was very good. One thing about Lex Luthor in this movie is that his motive is very like boring. Like he's just jealous because Superman is so strong and people like him. Very boring motive against him. But he commits to it though. He commits. He's putting his ex-girlfriends into cells. That is some evil shit, which I respect. I like that he's very petty. He just doesn't care. He is a good villain. This really felt like Superman was not super in this movie just because Ultraman was just as strong as him. So it did feel like, oh, he might lose. Like it's not like a straightforward win for him. And that's one thing James Gunn did say. He didn't want to make this Superman not seem so indestructible, and he did achieve that. Also, one important note is that there are too many scenes of like unimportant people taking up screen time. In the Daily Planet, the only people who I want to see on the screen are Lois Lane and the other guy who I can't remember his name. I think his name was Jimmy, but the other guy who got the selfies from Lex Luthor's girlfriend. Only those two were important. Anybody else getting screen time at the Daily Planet was just useless. This movie needed more Superman scenes, in my opinion. Him just with other people, especially him and Lois Lane. I think after their scenes in the apartment, everything else was just like, it was pretty mid. Mid in terms of there wasn't any depth in any more scenes after their apartment scenes. Okay, let's rate this movie. I think it's a solid 8 out of 10. As much as I did like the comedy in my first watch, there's just too many jokes, and when you have too many jokes, it just takes away from the movie because almost every scene has a joke, which I just think is unnecessary. As well as I did love the fast-paced nature of the movie, but this also sets up the ending to be very, very predictable. But also at the end, I did want more. I did want to see more of this universe, what Superman goes on to do, what the Justice Gang go on to do. So it does set up this universe in a very good way because I am very intrigued now. And also the Peacemaker cameo was so good. I really loved that because that was so on brand for Peacemaker. I like this universe so far, and I am very excited to see what happens. At the same time, this movie, it just really feels like a Superman and Friends type of movie, which you could say is bad, which you could say is good, but I do feel I would have liked a little more just Superman. Give me more Superman moments by himself or with Lois Lane. I think they needed more of that. I just think there's so many characters which just takes away from this being a Superman movie. Like it's a Superman movie. It's not Superman and plus these other people. Nah, this is a Superman movie. And at times, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's a Superman plus other people type of movie, which it shouldn't feel like that in my opinion.